Welcome to WikiAfrica Hour, where Africa's Wikimedians talk to, learn from, and discuss with each other topics they choose. Each session is curated by African Wikimedians to expand Africa's open movement. Today's host is Ceslause Ogbonnaya.
Lovers of the open movement, I'm super excited to welcome you all to the episode 18 of WikiAfrica Hour, titled How User Groups Are Run. My name is Ceslause Ogbonnaya, and I'm your host. The Wikimedia movement is often perceived as an overly complicated ecosystem full of bureaucratic twists and turns. The Wikimedia organogram of user groups, chapters, affiliates, and affiliations committee, of course, always help to give you a basic map of how the movement functions. A deeper understanding of how the user groups are run, how defunct ones are revived, and how conflicts within the groups are managed, resolved, or escalated is actually an integral part towards understanding the Wikimedia movement. To shine light on the topic of today, we will be chatting with three special guests who are well versed in the founding, running, and recognition of user groups, and they will be sharing with us their respective experiences, and we'll be, of course, getting to have tips from them on how to liaise with the affiliations committee. First, we have Tobechukwu Precious Friday from Nigeria, who has been involved in the global Wikimedia community since 2017. She is a co-founder and program coordinator of Igbo Wikimedians User Group. She is the outreach coordinator of Wikimentor Africa program, and she's also a member of the Wiki Loves Women focus group. She is as well Wikimedian in residence at the Moskin Foundation, where she works under the WikiAfrica education project. Secondly, we have Tricia Khohliwe. Candy is a long-term Wikimedia editor. She is the program coordinator at Wikimedia Community User Group Botswana. She is an experienced organizer of Wiki Loves Africa photo contest and the arts and feminism campaigns. She was the coordinator with the Wiki Loves Women Focus Group Members Initiative. And then we have Manavpreet Kaur, who is a doctor of forensic science. Manav is a co-founder of the Punjabi Wikimedians. She contributes on both the Hindi and Punjabi Wikipedia. She is also a member of Wiki Project Med, Wiki Women's User Group, and the Wikidone. She is currently the Wikimedia Foundation Staff Liaison for the Affiliations Committee. First, we'll be engaging our panel one, comprising Tochiprecious Friday and Tricia Khohliwe. Hello, Tochi and Candy. Thank you for being here with us today.
Hi, Ceslause.
Thank you for the invitation as well.
Yeah.
It's mine, and I'm glad to, see how enthusiastic you guys are to jump in. We will start with you, Tochi. You have been in the Wikimedia movement for some years now, up to the level of co-founding and coordinating a user group. Tochi, how did you join the movement, and how did Igbo Wikimedians user group come about?
Okay, thank you, Ceslause. So, mine is not the usual traditional joining. So, what actually brought me to the movement was coffee. I always tell people this. So, Blossom Ozurumba once posted on Twitter. Hello, I'm looking for someone that will help me join me to do some Igbo translations, like Igbo language translations. And then there's coffee, there's food. I love coffee. So that was one reason that I had to. I ran to the venue she gave. That was somewhere in, we say, to Abuja, Nigeria here. And when I got to the place, she started talking about Wikimedia and talking about Wikimedia projects, Wikipedia, writing Wikipedia in Igbo. And I'm like, okay, that's so cool. And as at then, I loved to write the very long articles, like translating those very long ones. I don't like the short ones. So that was actually how I got to join the Igbo, join the Wikimedia movement itself. And she was working on this project, Wiki Women, Igbo Wiki Women. That was the project she was working on. It was under a rapid grant. So at the end of that project, when it was coming to an end, Blossom, myself, and Uzomo Zurumba, we were thinking of what to do next, how to continue. Like, we've already brought together a community of Igbo people, because we'll invite people, even though it was Blossom's project, I will invite people, Uzoma will invite people from her own end, Blossom will invite people. Sometimes, even when Blossom is not around, we run the projects by ourselves. Like, we teach people, Uzoma and I will teach people how to edit Wikipedia. And it was all too cool and so nice sharing the knowledge, especially in Igbo language. And then when the project was about coming to an end, we were wondering, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this to continue? And then Blossom suggested that we apply for an Igbo Wikimedians User Group. The three of us, we thought of it as a very good idea. And then we started the process. We applied to AFCOM, and that was how it all began. And Uzoma and I were listed as the point of contact with Blossom as an advisor, and AFCOM accepted our application. And on the 15th of May 2018, we were recognized as a user group. So that was our own journey and our own process. It was all about coffee, and then getting into the movement, starting to edit, and trying to continue to sustain what we started. And that was how the Igbo Wikimedians User Group came in. Thank you.
I heard coffee. I heard food. Count me in. I mean, if that's what it takes to
Yeah.
actually get to be part of this amazing movement, please sign me up. Thank you for sharing those interesting details about how you got into the movement. And over to you, Candy. The Wikimedia Community User Group Botswana started in December 2017. But shortly after that, Candy, it seemed as if the user group just vanished. Any idea what happened? If you have an idea of what happened, please kindly share with us.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ceslause, for inviting me to this session today. So we had a user group back then, I think before 2017. It was founded by Warabile Mudongo. At the time where this user group started, it was mostly after a short competition that we had at our university, to university. So we were students, and there was a Botswana Wikipedia challenge that we did. So he was the first winner, well, and I was the second runner up. And I think he with him kind of like being mentored and had more I'll say a better network, he actually founded the community. And I was just maybe I would say in the backside, just looking up to what he's doing, trying to follow up. And then there came a time where we had to actually graduate. Now we're looking for different paths in life. Everyone is looking for a job. And he also goes out to South Africa. He starts working there. I don't even know where to look. I don't know where to look for in terms of like asking for help. And there was also this hesitation about applying for grants. How do I even qualify to even get a grant? That was also something that I think it came about, that kind of like hesitation, like, oh, can I even handle this money if it comes? Because I'm really not convinced with actually what the WMF does. Who do I even go to if in case I need help? Like first on an initial basis. So I think with that being said, it was just us going into different parts of life. After graduation, that was just the community kind of like went down. So fast forward into 2019, that's when I actually gained more courage. I think I gained more courage after I went to Nigeria, and I was actually part of that Wikindaba conference. After that, I think I gained more experience and actually gained more courage speaking to other African Wikimedians from there. Actually, that was my second conference, but then I think I gained more knowledge and also kind of like grew confidence, like, oh, actually I can do this, and I actually can do I can run projects. So from then on, yes, this is us actually trying to rebuild the community. Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting rundown. Yes, it could be a lot. I mean, having just two people running things. But
Yes,
then
yes.
you saying that you found the courage to pick up after the Wikindaba conference in Nigeria, it sort of reiterates, how necessary or how major, the role of these conferences are, because you come to these conferences and, you get this pumped up energy to go do something, go back to your community, make a difference. Thank you for sharing that with us, Candy.
Yeah.
And then coming to you, Tochi, the early days of the Igbo Wikimedians user group, it must have been quite a handful of work, from roping in these new community members to capacity building to accessing funds to knowing the type of projects to run. Tochi, how did you navigate all of these, accessing the right type of funds and onboarding new members, choosing the right type of project to run?
Okay, thank you again for that. So those early days were quite challenging. We didn't know it all. We're just doing trial and error, and but because we had already started with women's project, and we're also women, so we felt the easiest place to go to was to run projects on women. Now we had friends. We had this agenda of anyone who is coming for the next meeting, come with one person. So because we're also women, it was should I say, a sure banker that the next one person or the next two people you're going to come with would definitely be women. So we had that kind of chain of invitation, invite someone, invite another person invite another person. And then we started trying to build their capacities in majorly editing the Igbo Wikipedia and also Wikipedia itself. And from there, we started writing to organizations, Uzoma and I especially, we started writing to organizations across the Southeast. We wrote to the Anambra State Ministry of Information and Enlightenment. Were invited, and we sent them a proposal. We had trainings with them. We discussed with the Commissioner for Information then, and we also wrote to the Ministry of Youth and Entrepreneurship Development, because we are youths. So it's also easier for us to key into those areas. So we try to identify the strategic areas and the strategic parts we know that it will be easier for us to get into. And sometimes I would travel, sometimes Uzoma and I would travel. We would leave a whole lot of our things, both in the rain, in the shine. We would definitely, it was just the enthusiasm that was keeping us going. We wanted to get more people to know about what we were doing. We wanted to get more people to contribute to the Igbo Wikipedia, to share more knowledge. As at then, it was just the Igbo Wikipedia, but before we dived into Wiktionary, to share more knowledge in Igbo language. We're so keen about getting people to access information, those that would on a normal day not be able to access the information or knowledge, free knowledge in English language or any other language. We're so keen for them to access that knowledge in Igbo language, making it freely available to them. There was also this beauty pageantry that happens in Imo State. We somehow got in contact with them, and I was a keynote speaker for that event back in 2018, and I had to talk to them about Wikimedia Igbo as well. and from there people would get to join. We had some with Yali in Imo State. We had with Yali the Young African Leaders Initiative in Anambra State. We also went to Enugu State, the Center for Memories, because they had this documentation that had to do with the Biafran War and a lot of other things that were very particular to the Igbo history. And we were making we were trying to build a lot of partnerships, trying to build skills of people. It was very difficult and kind of tough because maybe amongst us, you see maybe two of us who are able to train people, or two are able to edit Wikipedia, and we're the ones who would have to train people. So you might see in a room of 50 people or in a room of 30 people, you just have myself training and Uzoma teaching, and Uzoma teaching, or myself teaching and Uzoma training. So it was a very challenging moment for us, but somehow we managed to get more people on board. But not everyone we introduced it to in the early years keyed in with us. Not every partnership worked, but then we are glad about the ones that have worked. We are glad about how far we've come in from 2018 till now 2022. How far the community has gone, how large we've grown, being notable in different parts of the Igbo speaking states. So it was really challenging. I'm not going to tell you that it was easy. Thank you.
Yes, I'm actually laughing because I know some of these stories, especially the road trips to remote areas, trying to get the partnerships and what have you. But then look at the Igbo Wikimedia today, having partnership across
Yes.
the globe with Wikimedia Deutschland, what have you. Kudos to you guys, Tochi. Thank you for sharing this
Thank you.
very intimate information with us. And coming to you, Candy. You have taken up the coordination of the Wikimedia Community User Group Botswana once again. What steps have you taken so far towards revitalizing the user group? Please walk us through the steps.
I wouldn't say there are really steps to it. It's trial and error, as Tochi said. So me working on actually rebuilding the community, I actually looked into what's accessible to me. So I currently have two colleagues. One is Lungo Mokwati, and then there's another one is Oteng Kolobeto. She's also part of the Wiki Loves Women focus group. So that is somebody who actually has a good, I'll say, foundation or a good background on what Wikimedia is about, and she's actually getting mentorship on that. So I thought, okay, fine, this will be actually be very much ideal and very good to have as somebody who has experience on that. And then Lunga Mokhati is also like a communications graduate. So I thought, okay, actually, for us to actually build the community, we actually have to create awareness. So she's really good with communications and also creating engagement on social media space. So those were the key factors that I looked into and thought, okay, fine, we should actually start from the foundation, create awareness, and also try to build the community through that consistently, and also having somebody who actually knows way better, not way better, but we're all learning, somebody who's more familiar with the Wikimedia space. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. But then I noticed something very strategic. This time you didn't go for rapid grants funds.
Yes.
So why did you choose to go for the other one? If you will also let us know the other one you went for.
So ever since 2019, as I said, it has always been like all the hesitation, well, from back then. Fast forward to 2022. From 2019, ever since I was running projects on individual grants, I thought, okay, fine, Candy, you've been doing this for quite a while, and you've actually made some good track record for yourself. And I feel like there was a bit of more trust with the projects that I've been doing. And I was trying to I thought, okay, fine, maybe this is time we actually have a user group that is functional and rebuild it. So what other time would it be perfect to actually get something that we could actually have as an annual grant to run more consistently and have regular activities and actually revive the community? Because on the individual grants, it was mostly, for the lack of the better word, I'll say haphazard kind of like projects. I'll run them maybe once or twice a year. So people really didn't get to understand what is the purpose that I'm trying to do with the community. So to try and build it more and have it more consistent and build it up, I thought, okay, fine, an APG would actually have a more foundation level to it. And if, yes, tomorrow, something, God forbid, happens to me, there's actually somebody who can even take this up, and they won't be kind of like a repetition of what happened in the past where somebody left and then nothing happened. So yes, I think it's really good to kind of like build that foundation for our community and have that user group more functional and built. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, when you are looking at going big, yes, an APG could change your life. I know when we at Igbo Wikimedia were just dealing with rapid grants, but then the minute we were able to access an APG, I think our projects blew open. Like they made much more impact. Thank you so much, Candy.
Thank you.
And pleasure. And every organized group takes quite a level of coordination to, drive. Tochi, how did you know the right team members to bring on board at each point? I mean, Candy just shared with us how she felt a communications person was key to them, getting themselves off the ground. I mean, did you use any particular criteria? Please share, Tochi.
All right, thank you. Yeah. So for us, not a very, should I say, not a very difficult criteria, but then we know that we're working in the free knowledge movement and it's something voluntary. We weren't paying anyone. And this is something we're very happy to do, we're very enthusiastic about. So the first criteria um, about for choosing team members was about the enthusiasm, someone that wanted to had the zeal to make impact or to impact people without looking for like a monetary stuff attached to it per se. But whenever anything comes out of it, yeah, fine, that is very much okay. We can all have that. But then what about times when there's nothing, there's no salary, there's nothing for you to use and reimburse your internet, there's no data, and you had to do that maybe from your own work salary. So that was what we looked out for. We needed people that had that enthusiasm because even when all odds are against you, at least your enthusiasm would keep you going. And it's still that enthusiasm that would make you to want to do more or to even learn more for you to be able to carry out, let's say, programs. Now, if you are enthusiastic about editing Wikipedia and sharing the free knowledge, you will want to know how to host events so that you can also do this in your catchment area. So this was what was particular for us. We needed to find people who were hungry for this and who were really ready to do this without anything attached. And then we got them on board. The ones I had to train myself, more like mentorship, had to guide them on how to do some things. A lot of them are much better than I am now, and I'm really very happy about that because when I look back on some people who were there like for over a year and they were not able to do any other thing apart from maybe editing Wikipedia, and now the difference is so much clear. Getting involved in other things in the community is really very like it's exciting for me. So it was one of the things we really looked out for. We just needed someone that had the enthusiasm. Any other thing can be learned onwards.
Thank you, Tochi. And I like to proudly tell people that you were the one who introduced me to this movement, and here we are today. So, Yeah, here we are, and I'm happy to be doing this journey, and still be looking at those beside me, and I still see your face. I remember the first invite in 2018, and yes, this is also an opportunity to let people know that it's a movement that requires absolute service. You can't
Exactly.
come in and expect some sort of monetary gains. If it comes, fine, but if it doesn't, make sure you have the drive to keep pushing. Thank you for sharing that
Exactly.
very important
Thank you.
point with us, Tochi.
You're
And
welcome.
coming back to you, Kanzi, you have told us how important it was to have a communications person for a community that is on its way back to the top. What other key roles did you choose to bring on board aside the communications person, and why?
Uh, Other roles that I actually thought about, it was more, I think Tochi said it all, enthusiasm, eager to learn, and somebody who is just curious, about being part of this community and understanding the value of editing and actually being part of the Wikimedia Botswana Community User Group. I think most of the content that we have actually it's not really on the digital. Well, when we search a lot of things on the digital space, there's not so much. So we thought, okay, fine. It would be really good to try and identify those people who are really courageous and actually would like to be part of this community. And I saw that in these two ladies who have actually mentored, and they're actually still very active till date. They even more peer. They do this peer-to-peer mentorship sessions with other committee members who want to join. So, with that kind of like zeal, I really appreciated the work that they were doing, or the voluntary work that they were doing in trying to help to try and build this community for Botswana. So I feel just having those people who are willing to trickle down the knowledge of editing and also building this community is very important to empower other people. So yes, I think those are the key factors that we're playing into me bringing these two ladies to be part of uh, the Wikimedia community organizer, Botswana community user group. Yeah.
Yeah, and why Oteng is the communications? What's the other person's role, please?
Yes, no, Lungo is the communications personnel. So she actually studied journalism. So she's a graduate as a journalist. And Oteng Kolobeto is an IT graduate. So I think she joined Wiki loves women focus user I almost said user group focus group in she has 2 years if not 1 year with the group. So I think that with her building up, and she actually started as a volunteer there, so that was a great transition to see her grow and evolve from that focus group and actually gain more traction. She actually hosts or holds better sessions than I do. She actually has a great network of people when she runs sessions. So it's quite great to see people who actually would like to bring more people on board when they do projects such as she said and wiki codes when she runs those sessions. She's amazing. So yeah, there's nothing more I can say there. Thank you, Ceslause.
Thank you so much. At least now I know distinctively that Lungo is the comms person and Oteng is the rainmaker. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ideally, a community is, usually made up of people with various backgrounds, various belief systems, etc. And this usually makes conflict almost inevitable. Does the user group have a laid down format of dealing with internal conflicts that could arise, or a format for escalation to a higher authority if need be? Tochi, please share with us.
Okay. Because definitely there would be conflict, and then these are people from different kinds of backgrounds, various backgrounds, and definitely the conflict would be different types of conflict. So we do not have, in particular, any form of conflict resolution format, but then the Universal Code of Conduct guides us, and despite anything, we also try as much as possible to make sure that everyone is welcomed and everyone feels welcomed, and you don't in any way try to start feeling like maybe someone else is better than you, or maybe any other person is better than you. But when there is conflict, most times people get to report to me as the community lead, and I always like to reach out to the other person most of the time, and I'll be like, hey, so and so person said you did this, and so person said you did that. Could you please let me know how this went? And then we would find a very should I say, a level ground kind of, so that everyone or each party involved would be happy, and it wouldn't be like maybe I'm siding this person and this person seems like he or she is now on his own or on her own. But in whatever we do, the Universal Code of Conduct guides us, and we try to mediate in any way possible when there's a conflict. And sometimes, even when people leave the WhatsApp group, I always reach out and I'm like, hey, I noticed you left our WhatsApp group. Did we offend you? Or is there anything we did you don't like? And maybe the person will be like, no, it's simply because I've not been maybe contributing. And because of that, I don't feel I should keep being there anymore. And sometimes from that situation, I can either get to start teaching the person, or maybe I know of one who he joined the group from Japan, and because he had issues with the language, he had language barrier issues, and that was one of the things that made him to leave. But aside that, the Universal Code of Conduct guides us, and if there's any other issue or something that we need to resolve, we resolve it immediately within the community by speaking to both parties. So there's no other format or any other thing that we have to do specially or we do specially.
Thank you, Tochi. Myself, who is used to texting people at odd hours about projects, I hope nobody has reported me to you. But
Not
yeah,
at all. Not yet.
it's
You
great
know that
knowing
group
that.
is active till 12.
Yeah, till midnight, by the way. But then I'm happy to know that, I mean, despite the fact that we've not maybe fully started moving towards the Universal Code of Conduct as a movement, that the Igbo Wikimedia is already, taking note of its content in terms of handling internal conflict. How about you, Candy? Do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Ceslause. Yes, we follow the Wikimedia Foundation code of Universal Code of Conduct. We don't have conflict of resolution amongst ourselves. But one of the biggest things that we actually do within our community, we allow the spirit of constructive feedback. Like if you actually have some constructive feedback, or you want to share something, or you feel like there's a certain issue that was handled in a certain way which you didn't like, we allow you to express yourself and actually call it out before it becomes a big mountain or whatever. There's been times where, for example, maybe with Doteng and Lungo, I would actually make a meeting and say, oh, guys, I think this is how maybe this certain behavior I didn't like. Or they would also come back to me and say, oh, Candy, we didn't like 1, 2, 3, before it actually creates a big mountain and we actually cause friction, and it kind of like wouldn't help us to go further with progressing our project. So we allow that kind of like spirit of expressing ourselves and giving feedback, and actually also us fixing our errors as we go. So yes, we follow the Universal Code of Conduct, and we allow everyone to be respected. Well, we allow, but we encourage that everyone feels respected and welcomed within the team, despite of whatever background they may be coming from. So yes, it's a very safe space that we're in right now. We've never had, I think, any really high or really difficult issues as far, but I think as time goes on, if it evolves, we would have to start thinking of that conflict of resolution and see how we could progress things. And I'm pretty sure even if we were to get to that stage, I'm pretty sure there's a great network of Wikimedians here that I can even contact, and even also speak to Veronica to try and get more insight on how I can process or progress from a certain issue if I was to experience it, and how, yes, I can navigate that kind of issue. So yes, I think that's about it from me. Thank you, Ceslause.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but, notice the uniqueness of each community when it comes to handling internal conflict. I mean, you guys know yourselves better than any other person
Yeah.
outside your community, and as such, know how best to handle yourselves. And then, from your respective experiences, if someone is looking to, let's say, co-found a user group or to coordinate a user group, what advice would you give to such a person? Over to you, Tochi.
Okay. So I like to work with people who have the enthusiasm. So if I'm going to advise you, I'm actually working on developing a user group in Mozambique with some Mozambican new Mozambican volunteers. And what I actually started looking out for was that enthusiasm, because when all odds are against you, I'll repeat this, it's that enthusiasm and that zeal that will carry you on. So if you want to build a user group, first of all, you need to know why you want to build this user group. What is the aim and the objective? What's the vision that you will have? And then from there, you look for people that you have to work with. And these people must also be able to buy into your vision. They should be as enthusiastic as you are, even if they are not 100%, but at least they should be up to 95% enthusiastic. So you don't have problems with, hey, I've been doing this free work and nobody's giving me money for data, or maybe nobody's paying me any salary, because it might take up to years before you start reaping the fruit of whatever it is you're doing. So you don't need people that will be giving you headache, because the work itself is enough of the headache and you don't need extra. So you need to find people who are enthusiastic, then put out your put out a kind of persona of people you need to reach out to, like to discuss about your own user group, and also be able to key into your user group as the community members, so they should be able to buy into the vision that you've already built as well, so that it will be easier that when you're communicating it to them, they will be picturing it and be understanding it. So make your vision clear, make your goals and your objectives clear. Find team members who are very enthusiastic and not just all about maybe money or because they want the name. And then, because in the long run, it's going to cause you problems, even though it doesn't at that onset, it will cause you problems later. Then, when you're discussing with people, or you're doing outreach or evangelism to people that you want to get into the community as community members, is that goal and the vision that you'll be able to preach to them, that they will buy into. Without it, the other ones would really not balance so well. So that would be my own advice to anyone who wants to start a user group. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Tochi. I can agree with, of course, having the clear-cut vision. It gives you a sense of direction. And then the enthusiasm is very key, because there are days that I personally, I take L's left, right, and center. And then what actually keeps me going is, the enthusiasm and, understanding the things I've committed myself into doing. So thank you for sharing that. And over to you, Candy. Any advice?
Hi, Ceslause.
Yeah, any advice for those of them who would perhaps want to co-found or coordinate a user group?
For anyone who would like to coordinate or run a user group, I would say the first thing is know your community. Build a relationship with your community. Know their strengths, their weaknesses, because you'd need their skills as time goes on. You may find like a good photographer. You may find a very good person with graphics. You may find somebody who's good with writing. You may find somebody. Actually, this is how I actually identified even Lungo within our community to be part of the communications supporting side of our community. So I think it's very important to try and build that relationship with your community, know them, what they are good at, so that they help you even run projects as time goes on, and they volunteer there. And then one other thing that I would like to say is also run your own race. It's very important to not be distracted about what's happening. Well, it's really good to learn what other people are doing, of course, outside, but the different factors that come into play when you start comparing yourself with other communities. I mean, there different factors like demographics. Maybe your communities or your country is still trying to learn more, or they're still trying to gain more knowledge about what Wikipedia is all about. So don't be discouraged or feel like your community is not growing. Trying to look at quantity and not quality, but try and build a more community that has not competent, but then just build them up to be to that extent of being really quality members within your community. Just don't look at the numbers, but then have that quality information that they can share in building your community. And one other thing, it's very important to be consistent and be regular with constantly communicate with your community. Make sure that you're active, reach out to them, and also be very innovative about reaching out and actually creating awareness. Try and find new ways of always trying to getting known or getting recognition. It's very important to always know what's trending, to try and see how you can actually attract more new volunteers into your community. So yes, it's very important that not we all, but the new person who wants to do this, to know that it's very important to have those in mind when they want to build a community. Yes.
Thank you, Candy, for sharing those tips. And thank you also, Tochi. Those tips were really huge, as we know that they're coming from the stables of people who are doing this, who are in the business of doing this every day for so many years. And of course, they will come in very handy. Thank you guys for answering the questions asked so far. Hopefully, the audience would have some questions for you during the Q&A segment of the episode. And that takes us to the panel two, where we have Manav, who has been very patient. Manav is from the Affiliations Committee. She is currently the Wikimedia Foundation staff liaison for the Affiliations Committee. Hello, Manav.
Hello.
Welcome once again. The first question is, I mean, there are terms I personally have heard in the movement, just like everybody else. And these terms are not easy to differentiate from one another. Terms like Wikimedia User Group, Wikimedia Affiliate, Wikimedia Chapter, they are most considered to mean the same thing. Please clarify if there are at all any differences.
Okay, hi. Before I actually dig into the clarifications regarding affiliations, I think the one thing that I need to clarify is that I am a staff liaison for AFCOM, but I am not AFCOM. So anything that I say here is purely on the grounds of my association with the volunteer committee, which is AFCOM, and my work that is involved in supporting them. So when we talk about affiliates, yes, there are a lot of terms that we use, and we have been using all these terms synonymously, which is the reason why there is confusion about how they are different from each other. So when we talk about movement affiliates, so the movement affiliates are the recognized bodies by Wikimedia Foundation who have the rights to use Wikimedia Foundation trademarks. So there are three categories of affiliates that we have. The first one is the user group, which is a less formal structure, but a recognized structure of movement affiliate. There are no major functional expectations from user group apart from the fact that they are intending to work on any kind of projects that take the movement forward. There can be 3 to 10 initial members to start a user group. The way the chapters and thematic organizations are different from a user group is the fact that the chapter and thematic organizations are more formal structures. The chapters are the entities which are region based. So we have one chapter for one country, and thematic organizations are the formal bodies which work on one central theme. So, yeah, so they're all movement affiliates. There are 3 categories of movement affiliates: user groups, chapters, and thematic organizations.
Okay, thank you for getting that out of the way, because I've been confused since the century, hearing them being interchanged and interused. And then the Affiliations Committee almost always comes across as a clandestine part of the Wikimedia Foundation, more like a need-to-know basis sort of committee. Manav, could you please explain to us what is the Affiliations Committee and what are the roles of the committee?
Okay. So basically, Affiliations Committee is a board committee. It's not a foundation committee, it's a board committee. AFCOM is answerable to the Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees, and they're being observed and monitored by the Board of Trustees as well. So this is a volunteer committee. The only process of recruiting people to AFCOM historically has been elections. And then there is one annual cycle of elections, except certain situations where we go down a certain number of members, and that is when we have had midterm elections. So usually these nominations are open. We announce elections in the month of November, and in December, we usually give the community a month to nominate themselves. And the sitting members of AFCOM, they review the candidate's profile, they review their strengths and also the associating factors and the expertise they're bringing to the committee. And then they have this internal voting to actually elect the members. And basically all the members who work on AFCOM, they are split in 2 subcommittees. The one is the conflicts intervention subcommittee, the committee that actually works on any kind of conflicts that the affiliates have within themselves or inside the affiliate. And the other one is the recognition subcommittee. The recognition subcommittee primarily works on chapter and thematic organization applications. As far as user group recognition is concerned, the pipeline, the journal criteria review is managed by staff, but the overall decision on any kind of comments that we usually receive from overlapping affiliates and the information that is submitted by the applicant, this is thoroughly reviewed by all AFCOM members, and the decision on user group is taken by entire affiliations committee, while the chapters and thematic organizations go through multiple processes of review and are ultimately approved by the Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees.
Thank you so much for that detailed explanation. And then you talked about the nominations before the volunteers are elected. Currently, Manav, how many people make up the affiliations committee, and how does the election happen in such a way that we ensure equal representation, of various regions at least?
Yeah, so currently there are 7 active members on AFCOM. They are from different regions. We've had representation from various regions, but because this is something which is not initiated, not as in like AFCOM does not identify people to be on the committee, though they are open to actually share the announcement with their contacts and with the community at large. There are multiple communications that are sent out. We usually send out one prior notification before elections and before the formal announcement of elections. We usually give people 15 days of buffer time to actually know when we are going to come up with a nomination announcement. And then as soon as we announce the elections, the community at large has a month to consider being on AFCOM and to nominate themselves to be a part of this committee. And then usually we do have reminders that we sent out, and we also sent out notifications to the affiliates who have actually subscribed to the messages, to the mass message list. And then apart from that, we do have social media channels where we promote all the stages of where the elections is, where the nomination period is. Like if there are 15 days left, 5 days left, we do send out regular reminders to actually trigger some sort of initiation of discussion about this. And if there are people who can consider being a part of this committee, they should actually see it and consider joining. And then Meta is the page where we usually gather nominations. There is a section for endorsements as well. But I would specifically like to state that historically, AFCOM has reviewed this, and they have consciously observed that endorsement is something which is based on how socially engaged one individual is, and which might vary from person to person, and also in different regions. So that's why endorsements are considered. The information which is mentioned in endorsements is considered, but the number of endorsements is never considered when they are evaluating a profile internally.
Thanks for sharing the endorsement detail. I mean, I didn't know there actually was that part involved in the selection process. But then I think it's a great idea to consider the details of the information being shared on the endorsement than, the amount of endorsement each person would get, because most social cats in the movement would just take all the endorsements and get on the AFCOM easily. And the Affiliations Committee is responsible for officially recognizing new user groups, affiliates, or chapters, as the case may be. Though you mentioned there is a subcommittee specifically responsible for this. Manav, what does the process of recognizing a user group, affiliate, or chapter look like? Please, is there a chance you could share with us?
Okay, so firstly, we'll start with user groups. There is a certain criteria that we have identified. The information is available on Meta. You can you can go to Affiliations Committee. We have improved our pages. Like when I say we, it's the Affiliations Committee who has improved how the information is now available on Meta, and they've also improved the information flow on Meta. So you can find information about movement affiliates, about user group recognition criteria, the process, the timeline, and for chapters and thematic organizations as well. So the first is user groups. For user groups, the criteria is simpler. You should have 3 active Wikimedia editors minimum. And the active editor is an editor who has an account for at least 1 year and who's been active for the last 6 months with an edit count of 300 on all different Wikimedia projects except Wikidata. And then you should have a clear project that you want to work on, a clear process of that. They usually, when there is a new application that we receive for user group recognition, there are certain things that we evaluate, like if they have active number of members, do they want to work on a project, is that project suitable for an affiliation or not, and then the region where they're based, the scope of work that they want to work on, and the naming guidelines, are they following the general affiliate naming guidelines which are mentioned. Do they have active editors who have identified themselves as contact persons for the affiliate? And usually what we do is that we evaluate all the information that is provided, and we do send out a criteria review report, and we ask them to take actions to meet that criteria. And once they have met that criteria, we also identify the overlapping affiliates depending on the information which is provided by the applicant. If this is a regional group, which wants to focus on a specific area, we usually reach out to all the affiliates based in that region. If it is a thematic group, we reach out we reach out to all the overlapping affiliates in that thematic area. And sometimes there are applications which are more global in nature, who want to work without any kind of boundaries, regional or thematic. And this is something which has been a challenge for AFCOM to address. And they have been working on creating a policy to actually evaluate these kind of applications in future. For all sorts of applications, either a new group seeking recognition, either an old group with a former group who wants to initiate, like apply for revival, or a group which was not recognized the first time they applied. If they want to submit their application again, the only process is to submit a user group form, meet the criteria which is listed, and then the application is reviewed by the committee. So once we have sent out notifications to all the overlapping affiliates, we usually give them 15 days to 30 days. So initially we used to give them 30 days to respond. And if we don't hear from any of the affiliates, we consider this as no objection. We have recently upgraded it to 15 days to avoid the unnecessary delays in the process of recognition. So once we hear from them, so we create a resolution for AFCOM where we actually provide all the information which is provided by the applicants. We also create a criteria review report for AFCOM. We also add the comments that we receive from all the overlapping affiliates, and we provide all this information to full committee. And the full committee reviews this and votes. And that is how they decide if an affiliate is recognized or not recognized. So that's the usual process of user group recognition. For chapters and thematic organizations, any user group which has an experience of working for 2 years and is willing to actually transition into a more formal structure, they can submit an interest email to AFCOM to be recognized as a chapter or thematic organization. The first step is that they need to create bylaws. AFCOM has this year released guidelines to affiliates for bylaws. It is available on Meta. They've also created a small video to actually walk you through the process of how to structure your bylaws. And once the affiliate has structured their bylaws, they submit it to AFCOM for review. The process in which AFCOM reviews is that they do not observe any kind of legalities which might be regionally relevant. The only thing that AFCOM reviews is that if your bylaws are following the Wikimedia principles and guidelines. So that's the only thing they review. And then they share their first bylaw review report. And there are multiple communications between the applicants and AFCOM until the applicant bylaw structure meets the general expectation of bylaws. And once that bylaw is approved, we usually ask the applicants to update those bylaws on Meta so that the community at large can see that. And then AFCOM sends out a criteria review form to affiliate with multiple questions on governance, questions on partnerships, questions on DEI. There's a format for that as well, and it is also available openly on Meta. We usually ask the applicants to actually provide all that information. And once the applicant actually fills out that information, that criteria is reviewed by the lead from the recognition subcommittee. So this is where the lead comes in. So the lead will review it, and they will be in continuous touch with the affiliate until the criteria review document has the kind of structure that they expect it to have. And once the lead is satisfied with how it is structured, they share that criteria review report with full AFCOM committee. And then the committee reviews the criteria review report. And once the committee is sure about the structure of criteria and the information which is available there, when they are sure about how the affiliate is ready to take up the next step, that is when they send it out to staff. The purpose of staff review is to make sure that we are not missing out any kind of information which is substantial, and also analyze well in advance if there are any kind of capacity challenges there. For example, we have different teams who are supporting the criteria review process for affiliates. We do have trust and safety to review any kind of issues that have happened in the past to actually flag them, or if there is any kind of active case with trust and safety for the members of the group. And then also there is governance team who reviews this, as a DEI team, there are partnership team representatives. So all of them review that criteria and create a recommendation report for AFCOM. And then this goes to the AFCOM lead. The AFCOM lead gathers all the information, prepares a case pack, and then sends it out to the Board of Trustees for review. So that is how the whole process of review happens. And after the Board of Trustees review that application, they decide on the basis of the recommendation that they receive from AFCOM, and also after reviewing all the supporting information that they receive, whether or not to recognize a chapter or thematic organization.
Wow, Manav. Now I see why some people would rather just settle for user group, because it seems to be quite a lengthy process. But then I am actually happy to learn that when it comes to recognizing a user group, that the overlapping affiliates get to have a say and help the AFCOM's decision making about the new kid coming onto the block. So that's an interesting, that where at least the community is to a great extent involved in the process. And it seems like being recognized by the Affiliations Committee is like one part of it. It's also clear that a recognized user group, affiliate, or chapter could lose its status. Manav, could you share an example of any group maybe that once lost its status in the past and why it happened? And then what is required to keep and maintain a recognized status per AFCOM standards?
Yeah, rather than mentioning an example, I think I can mention case scenarios where an affiliate was suspended or derecognized, and then they came in for revival again. So basically, the general expectation that we have from every affiliate is to submit one annual affiliate activity report. That is the one expectation that we have from affiliates, to make sure that you are active, to make sure that you are functioning and growing. So this is the report that you submit on Wikimedia data portal. We would have interacted multiple times, because as soon as you miss out on submitting that report, you start receiving reminders. There are some auto-generated reminders that you receive on the meta page. There are some emails that Dumisani or I sent out to all the affiliates, reminding them about submitting that report. So one of the reasons of losing affiliation is missing out on that annual activity report. If you're not able to do even a single activity, or even if you're not meeting each other. For example, during the pandemic time, we did not have any kind of high expectations from all affiliates to actually do any kind of activities or engage in some sort of programs. But even if you were meeting and staying in touch with each other, that was enough, because we just wanted to make sure that as an affiliate, you are sure, you are actually aware of the fact that you have committed to stay connected as a formal body, as a formal Wikimedia movement affiliate, and you're working in that direction. No matter, we usually don't dig into the extensive nature of activities that you're doing or the kind of programs that you have been involved in. We usually don't review that. As of now, the general expectation is that you should be active. So one of the reasons why affiliates are suspended or derecognized is if they miss out on submitting that annual affiliate activity report. The second is if there is some sort of conflict which has not resolved and is identified as a serious conflict, and if the individuals or the affiliate involved in that are identified as violating the Wikimedia Foundation principles and guidelines, and if there is a clear report by Trust and Safety on violation, that is one of the criteria of losing affiliation as well. Apart from that, we have also received requests from affiliate in past where they've requested for dismissal, because probably they were not able to invest the time that they were able to invest in past, and because of the changing scenario and circumstances, if they're not able to continue that engagement now, and also if they're not able to find someone else to take up that responsibility, they have been reaching out to us and requesting for dismissal. And again, if there's a user group that has been derecognized once, the only channel for recognition or re-recognition is submitting a new user group application. So there have been some revivals as well. I would like to refrain from mentioning names here. But yes, there have been cases.
Thank you, Manav, for sharing. I mean, at least now people would know what could get them de-recognized. And I'm actually shocked to hear for the first time that some people applied to be disbanded, and maybe because they couldn't keep up with the commitment. But then it's good to know that, I mean, they didn't wait for those emails from you and Dumisani, bugging them to, oh, what's the situation report and all that. So it's even better that you approach and get yourself recognized if you feel you can't stick to the commitments and the guidelines. And lastly, Manav, you talked about a user group upgrading to a chapter. I think Wikimedia Nigeria is the recent case that we probably know of. With the steps you have explained, I mean, how long on average could it take a user group to maybe transcend or translate into a chapter?
So basically, the timeline is mentioned on Meta. It's a thoroughly explained process. But the challenge here is that the timeline that we have mentioned is the time that staff or AFCOM takes to review an application. But because there is volunteer community involved here, and then the pace at which one works might vary. So for example, if we talk about the initial bylaw review process, usually AFCOM meets only once a month for their subcommittee meetings. Like we do have a recognition subcommittee meeting, we have a conflict subcommittee meetings, and we have AFCOM officers call and AFCOM full committee call as well. Like there's one meeting for every subcommittee every month where they actually get together and discuss the progress of the cases that they're working on. As I mentioned earlier, that for chapters and thematic organization, we usually have one lead from recognition subcommittee who's working with the affiliate. So as soon as we receive an interest, we assign, like AFCOM assigns a lead for that case. And that lead actually gets in touch with the affiliate, telling them that they'll be their contact of point for future communications. And then we explain the process, we receive the bylaws, and then the bylaw review process starts, because bylaw is an extensive document and it's a complex document. It takes time for review. And once and the AFCOM lead has reviewed the bylaws, that is when they actually route it to the full recognition subcommittee for review as well, along with their comments. So it is the primary responsibility of the lead to actually thoroughly review it and leave comments on the document. And then the next step is to route it through the full recognition subcommittee for additional comments or additional review. And once everyone on the recognition subcommittee has reviewed it, they prepare a summary report of it, and then they send out that summary to the applicant for actions. So this is where the timeline for us stops, because it then depends on the applicant on how and when they are able to take those actions. So this pace of progress depends on both AFCOM and on the applicant as well. So once the bylaws are final, like for some applicants, it has taken us years to get those bylaws finalized. And for some, it was a smooth process, because right now there are 4 applicants which have cleared the stage of bylaws review, and they're on the final stage of criteria review as well. So it all depends on the capacity and the resources that the affiliate has to actually take those actions. And once the bylaws is done, we usually send out that form, as I mentioned earlier, for criteria information. And after receiving that information, usually AFCOM reviews that criteria in a month. And after AFCOM lead reviews it, they usually send it out to, again, recognition subcommittee members. And then they send it out to the affiliate. And then we usually have 3 to 4 weeks for full staff review of criteria. This is something that can vary as well. Sometimes we have 2 weeks time for review, and sometimes it may extend up to 4 weeks, depending upon whether we have an application for chapter, which is a regional based organization, or a thematic organization, which is more global in structure. And once we have reviewed that, so when we are on the stage of criteria review, we usually inform the Board of Trustees 2 months before we are going to submit an application for their review. So once the bylaws are approved and the criteria review is completed by the AFCOM lead, we usually inform the Board of Trustees that they might expect an application in future for review. So after completing all of that, the lead prepares the case pack and submits it to the Board of Trustees, and they approve or decide anything on those applications in their next Board of Trustee meeting. So it depends on when that next meeting is scheduled. And when they review it, they share their decision with AFCOM, and we announce the results. So this announcement of results is private if the decision is for non-recognition. And for any kind of recognition decision, the announcement is usually public.
Thank you so much, Manav. I mean, it's good to know that there are actually people or organizations who have successfully gone through the phases. And it might just be best that once a user group starts thinking in that direction, they approach those existing ones to take note and get a head start, if I would say, so that at least they could mitigate the timeline that it could take to get the recognition. And we're very grateful for the time you've taken to answer our questions, Manav. And you've helped us actually to understand how AFCOM functions, despite not being always in the open about how they work. And thank you also, Tochiprecious and Cicia Khohliwe, for making our time to have joined us. We now move to the Q&A segment of the episode. If you have any questions for our special guests, please go ahead and type it in the comments, and we'll have it asked and responded to. And while we are waiting for that, we had taken our time to gather some community questions that those who perhaps couldn't be here with us had sent in. The first question is it mandatory to be a registered organization to be an athlete? Manav, I guess you could easily answer to this one.
Yeah. So basically, again, we are using the confusing terms here. It is not a mandate to be a non-profit organization or a registered body to be an affiliate. You can be a user group with no regional registration. But if you want to be a chapter or thematic organization, because they are the formal Wikimedia movement structures, then it is a mandate to be registered regionally as a non-profit organization.
Thank you for that clarity. So for user group, you don't need it, but if you want to be a thematic organization or a chapter, then you have to be a registered organization. Okay, that's great. And then the second question is it possible for a country affiliate to have board members from a different country on their own board? Manav, I think you can also answer this.
Yeah. Yes. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the only thing that AFCOM reviews in the bylaw structure is if they are in compliance with Wikimedia principles and guidelines. As far as the structure of the board is concerned, this is something which is more regional. So if the regional government allows you to have a representative from a different country on your board, we're okay with that. Like AFCOM does not have any kind of objections to you being open to other countries for your board seats. But this is something which varies from region to region on what those laws are for you. For AFCOM, it is only about if or not you are in compliance with the Wikimedia movement principles and guidelines.
Thank you for that clarity. I think there is a question from Ian from the audience. Jan is asking to you, Manav, of course, is it common that applications for user groups are denied? And if so, what are the common reasons?
The recognition rate is much higher than the non-recognition rate from the applications that we have received in past. But some of the reasons for non-recognition may be that you're doing a lot of work, but you have not been able to present that work on Meta. And then probably the other reason is that you're working on a project which is suitable to continue growing and working as a project, but is not suitable for the structure of an affiliate. For example, I'm sorry, I won't quote examples. But yeah, if this is something which is more suitable as a project and not pretty much in line with the structure of an affiliate, so that can be one of the reasons. If there are clear challenges in the region with how the community is working with each other, or probably if there has been a history of conflict and that conflict has not resolved. So usually this is not the direct reason of non-recognition. AFCOM always reaches out to the overlapping affiliates, and if there is an observed conflict, they usually reach out to all the parties which are involved to actually understand the current situation and also to see if they can navigate boundaries. But if there is absolute no possible solution to this situation, that may lead to non-recognition. And I must emphasize this again, that may or may not lead to non-recognition. Like this entirely depends on how the majority of committee feels about that situation. Yeah, and then if there are multiple applications from one region, and then they are all working on micro projects. For example, if there are existing 3 groups in that region, and there are small projects coming up. For example, if there is an XYZ education group working in a region application, which is something which is very minor to actually work as a user group, and they can actually do that work in association with the existing affiliates, then AFCOM usually speaks to the applicants about the possible options there, and that is when they decide for non-recognition. But there is always an open dialogue that happens if there is any kind of capacity issue. Apart from that, it is more like if the provided information is not enough, if there is any kind of conflict which is observed and is unresolved, I think AFCOM can give more substantial reasons on this, because staff is not involved in those discussions and staff is not taking those decisions as well. So I think the right people to respond to this question are AFCOM members.
Okay, thank you for the attempt, Jan. And then the other question to the others, that's to Kandi and Tochi. Jan is asking what support was missing or had to find when you were getting started with your athletes. Over to you, Tochi.
Okay, so I would say mentorship. Yeah, that's the support I missed out on, because if we had the mentorship or maybe someone to guide us on some things and how things work, maybe it wouldn't have taken us so much of a long time to do some things we got to do. But then because we lacked that, we had to do trials and errors. We had to, sometimes we failed, sometimes we stood up and we continued. So I think that was the mentorship. Like it was that mentorship that we kind of missed out on. Like the way Manav is, the things Manav is talking about now, they are, I think things have really improved now compared to before. Formerly, if you reach out to AFCOM about something pressing, it takes a whole long years for you to get a response, unless maybe you're directly in contact with someone. So that was something else that made some things kind of quite difficult. So when it came to reporting, I think there was one we missed out on, but because we wanted to participate in Wikimania, we applied for a Wikimania grant, and then we realized that we were defaulting on a report, and we had to put that into place and correct that. And then since then, we've tried to make our reports to be timely, even though it's not due date, we send in our reports. So that kind of guide and mentorship was something we missed out on, or something we lacked at that stage where we're getting started. Someone to tell us this is the way things should be, this is what to do, and maybe these are the kind of grants you can access and all that, or these are the kind of projects that might interest you. Maybe you can localize it to your community. That kind of guide and mentorship was, I think, that was all we missed out on. But aside that, I think we're totally cool.
And over to you, Candy, the first missionary journey. What help did you wish you had? And now you're back on the second missionary journey. What help is difficult to get?
Yes, thank you, Ceslause. I think the support we need is actually, yes, guidance on how to go about this. We're actually not a user group yet. We're still working on rebuilding the community and having it as a user group. So I'm still within that journey of getting recognized, well, with our community actually getting recognized. Actually, I have a question. I can't say much because we're actually not recognized yet, but I actually have a question for Manav. I would like to know, with the criteria that has been set, is it maybe, would we say, is it fair across all bound, like all the countries? And looking at a country that doesn't have representation or an affiliate, would we say with all the projects that maybe that country has done so far and maybe has been done by a certain group of people, and actually, yes, for example, I'll speak for myself. We have like a meta page with all those projects that have been done there. And yes, maybe, of course, maybe, I don't know, we're still in getting waiting for feedback, but I just wanted to know, like, is the criteria that has been set actually, would we say it's fair enough across all bound for all countries to actually set that kind of criteria, looking at all the factors that may come into play, like demographics? My country is like 2 million people. In a country like Nigeria, maybe there's like 200 200,000 people, I don't know, somewhere there. But would we say the criteria that has been set is actually favorable, or it actually suits every community that's out there?
Yeah, I think, thank you for this question. I think it's important to actually have this clarification. The criteria is simpler for irrespective of the region, or irrespective of the size of the population that we have or the number of languages that we have. The criteria is actually simpler. AFCOM has recently met for their strategic meeting, and they have reviewed the criteria to actually make sure that the situation, because see, this criteria was designed when we started recognizing affiliates. This was not revised. So AFCOM recently sat down, because we are on 180 number. We have 180 active affiliates across the movement. So we are close to 200, and that is why AFCOM is now reviewing the changing scenarios and how actually it is important to see if those criteria which are listed are relevant. So they've recently made some changes, as I have mentioned earlier as well, that for some sort of applicants which are global and which are not limited by the scope of work that they want to do, it is difficult to actually assess capacities and also to evaluate the dynamics or the current situations, or how they're taking the work forward, and if or not there are any kind of overlapping affiliates with the similar nature of work going on in different region. So that is something which takes time. The only additional factor which actually impacts the pace at which an application is processed is if there is a history of derecognition, because then they evaluate how that group was recognized and if or not they would have met those requirements, or if they would have countered those challenges to be able to work as an affiliate and sustain as an affiliate again. So because they have been working on these policies internally, that might be the reason of why there is a certain decision that has not been taken yet. But yes, this criteria which is listed is simpler. It's just that that criteria evaluation is sometimes kept on hold until we review the background information or any kind of associated factors which are not clearly noticeable in a submission.
Thank you, Manav, for explaining those details to Candy. Hopefully, there will be further reviews in the future that might consider equity too, in terms of what Candy was asking about. There is another question from Chukuma, and it says, for user group, is it important that you have a meta page for the intended user group? To save time, because we don't want to keep us here longer than necessary. Yes, Chukuma, to help you document your activities, it's great you have a meta page, and that way you could easily link up your projects and have them reflecting on your meta page, so that if tomorrow you want to apply for recognition at AFCOMS, it could easily be, put together to review your activities in the movement. Thank you. Atiba is asking, is there a way for prospective different Wikimedia language editors to form a user group? Tochi, perhaps you can answer this from your hands-on experience.
Let me check the question. Is there a way for prospective different Wikimedia language editors to form a user group? It depends on the goal and the objective of that user group. But apart from that, I'm not seeing the possibility if there are different languages, unless it's different languages of a particular country, and then you can form a kind of country-bound user group. But if it's from different countries, I'm not sure of what is going to bound you as your goal and your vision. You have to make that clear for you to form a user group. But from the ones I've seen, it's either your country bound or your language bound, or there's a particular team binding you guys together. But if it has to do with different languages, unless maybe you're forming something like translators user group, or maybe linguistics user group or linguist user group. So you need to find a goal or a vision that will bind you all together. But apart from that, I'm not seeing um, that possibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Tochi, for sharing those details. Yes, I know that those contributing to the EVE Wikipedia, for instance, they cut across Benin, Togo, Ghana, I think some guys from Cote d'Ivoire also. So that brings us to the next segment, and of course that ends the Q&A segment. And the next will be the news updates. Thank you to those of you that asked questions. They were very helpful, and they've helped us to get more clarity. And with me today to share the news updates is Noni. Hello, Noni.
Hi, Ceslause. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine, thank you. And thank you for finding time to join me to do this today.
Sure. The theme for the Wikilabs Africa 2023 International Photo Contest is Climate and Weather. If you need a rapid grant to organize Wikilabs Africa 2023, application deadline is 1st December 2020.
Thank you, Noni. The Wiki in Africa team is looking to hire a part-time Wikilabs Africa facilitator. It's a paid position. Application deadline is December 5th, 2022. Please go to the Wiki Africa Hour newsroom to get the link to apply.
The 2022 Wikilabs Women She Said campaign on Wikiquote is ongoing. Go to the Wikilabs Women Meta page to learn more and participate. The deadline is the 31st of December 2022.
All the 16 episodes for the season 1 of Wikilabs Women Inspiring Open Podcasts are available for your listening pleasure. You can visit podcast.wikilabswomen.org or your favorite podcast platforms to listen to them.
The Ombuds Commission and the Case Review Committee are looking for members. People are encouraged to nominate themselves or encourage others they feel would contribute to these groups to do so. Please write in English to the Trust and Safety team at ca@wikimedia.org to apply to the OC, or to the legal team at legal@wikimedia.org to apply to the CRC. The deadline for applications is 31st December 2022 in any time zone.
The Wiki World Heritage User Group is still running a new video contest related to UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. Please visit the WH Intangible 2022 meta page, commons page rather, to learn more and participate. The deadline for participation is 30th of November 2022.
Wiki Loves Sport 2022 by Wikidon is currently ongoing. You're welcome to participate. The deadline is the 20th of December 2022.
We are excited to inform you that the Global Wikimedia Conference, Wikimania 2023, will be happening in Singapore from 16th to the 19th of August 2023.
The Wikimedian Steering Committee is welcoming expressions of interest from community groups to host Wikimania in 2024 and beyond. Send your application to wikimedia@wikimedia.org. Submissions are accepted until December 16, 2022.
And lastly, the Afro Cine Project is happy to inform you about the ongoing months of African Cinema Contest in the months of November and December 2022. Participants and communities are invited to improve content on Wikipedia, specifically info boxes related to African cinema. To indicate your interest in participating, please go to the Afro Cine Project page to list your name or your community's names. Note that there are prizes to be won. And also know that you can view all the news updates in the WikiAfrica Hour newsroom section of the WikiAfrica Hour meta page, and also the links to take actions. Thank you for your help, Nani. I appreciate it. The Wikimedia movement is one of the most unique spaces and communities on planet Earth. It is too large and complex for outsiders to grasp, and many times even too complicated for the some of the insiders to navigate. But one thing is for sure, there are ways around it. Like you've heard our guests explain the details around the respective ways communities navigate the movement. These guests were once newcomers to this movement, but are today co-founders, program coordinators, staff liaisons to the Affiliations Committee. And at each corner of discharging their duties, they continue to contribute to the growth of the entire Wikimedia movement. We've heard them explain how our community is run, from user groups to affiliates to chapters, all the way to the top. And if tomorrow you hear people say anybody can edit Wikipedia, please make it known to them that there is a proper structure that ensures that these contributions and edits are correct, and a structure that also ensures that the community of editors are looped into the amazing global Wikimedia movement. On behalf of the Wiki in Africa team, I say a big thank you to you, Tochiprecious, Tricia Khohliwe, and Manavpreet Kaur for finding time in your respective busy movement engagement schedules to honor our invitation today. I also thank everyone who found time to tune in and ask questions and stay with us up to this moment. I remain your host, Ceslause Ogbonnaya, and I wish you a happy weekend. See you next time.
This episode
Thank
of
you.
WikiAfrica Hour
Goodbye.
was hosted by Ceslause Ogbonnaya. Let us know what topics you want to discuss and join us next month on the same channels. Subscribe to the Wiki in Africa YouTube channel and follow WikiAfrica on social media.